There we go. I'm going to be talking to you mainly about the UCAS process, but also a little bit about other pathways for Year 12 students this evening. Year 12's going into Year 13. If you've got any questions at all, you can put those in the chat throughout the webinar. I can't see them until I've got to the end of the presentation. So what I will do is once I've finished, I'll go through the presentation to start with, and then once I've finished, I'll look in the chat and see if there are any questions, and then I will answer those questions. If you have any questions that are really, really specific to your circumstance or to your children, then please feel free, and you want a longer meeting about that, please do feel free to email me. I will drop my email address into the chat towards the end of the presentation, and it will also be on the slides as well. So let's go. So, the first of all, the website, the URL that you can see on the screen right now is the UCAS Parents and Carers URL. It's a really good thing to sign up to because they will send you newsletters. They don't spam you with loads of stuff, but they do let you know when the deadlines are coming up. So that can be quite helpful if you have a young person who you need to remind about a UCAS or a university deadline. Speaking of which, these are the key ones. So the ones set by UCAS are the first one, which is for applications to Oxford, Cambridge, and any courses on medicine, dentistry, and veterinary science. The deadline for those is early, it's the 15th of October. If your child is planning on applying for any of those courses, I should know by now, and I think I probably do know. But if you feel that your child has decided quite late, they'd like to make an Oxbridge or a medicine or dentistry or similar application, or you feel that they haven't let me know for any reason, please do say, because we do have sort of bespoke guidance around those applications because they do differ a little bit to the standard university applications. And the final deadline there, the final deadline for applications to UCAS, which is the end of January. Students can still apply after this date, but universities do not have to consider their application. So this is what's sometimes called the fair application deadline by UCAS. If you get your application in before that, you have to be considered by the course that you are applying for. If your application comes in after that, if it's a very popular or very busy course, the university don't have to consider you. So it is an important deadline. The other ones are deadlines that we've put in place. We would like all students to have a draft personal statement at minimum in place by October half term. And we would ideally like students to have completed and ideally sent their applications by the end of the autumn term. Because that means that we have plenty of time then to check them, look over them, and they are in plenty of time before that deadline. A brief introduction then. A lot of you will be familiar with UCAS, but just in case you're not, it is the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service, and it acts as a centralised service that manages applications to undergraduate degrees. Nearly everybody who does an undergrad in the UK will have to apply through UCAS. There are some universities and colleges who offer degrees who don't go through UCAS. They are known as private universities. And the main difference between those and what we think of as a normal university is students cannot get a loan from the government to cover their fees for those universities. So if your child is looking at a course that is outside of UCAS, please do check carefully because it may be that it's something that's very expensive and that they can't get funding for. Nearly everything, not over 99% of courses go through UCAS. UCAS has an apply and track function, which students use to send and manage their applications. So they fill everything in on the same site, press the button and off it goes. The university's responses come back to them through the same website. They accept their offers through it, and then they get sort of all the information they need comes through UCAS. They may get supplementary emails from the universities that they've applied to, but everything will come through UCAS. We can also track this at school, and we do. So we can see where a student's applying and when they've applied. We actually press the final button that sends their application off to UCAS, which means that we can check those applications before they go. And we can see when students have accepted their offers and really see the whole progress of their application. UCAS isn't free, unfortunately. It does cost £26. So it's £26 to apply for up to 5 courses via UCAS. That needs to be paid using a debit or credit card by the student when they send their application. So the UCAS process then, just to summarize it, is students start off by setting up an account with UCAS. UCAS opened at the end of May. So over the last couple of weeks, several of our Year 12s have already had an introduction to UCAS. They've already started. Lots of them have already set up their accounts. If they haven't yet, they need the buzzword Burley22 in order to link their account to us at Ackland Burley so we can see their application. They then enter all of their general admin information, a little bit more on that in a while. They can get help from us at any point if they're unsure. They also need to enter their qualifications. They choose up to 5 courses and or universities that they want to apply to. They enter a personal statement, they pay, and at that point, we enter their predicted grades and their academic references, and we check over their application before we finally send it off to UCAS. So that's the steps that it goes through. What do we exactly do then? So we're all involved as a team in UCAS. The tutor is often the first point of call for a student because they oversee that UCAS application on a week by week basis. So in Monday personal development time, a lot of it is dedicated to UCAS. Tutors can advise on university choices. Tutors are heavily involved in reviewing personal statements, and they also work with subject teachers to compile references. The subject teachers write those academic references, so about how that student is progressing, how good they are in their subject, and they also provide us with the predicted grades. And then us, the sixth form team, so me, Ron, Anna Remington, Michael Liu, we sort of work together around advice on university choices. We review the overall application, we review personal statements and references, and then we finally send the application to UCAS. I take overall kind of responsibility for those areas, but we all do sort of muck in on it as we go. The first section the students fill in then on UCAS is the My Profile section, which is the admin section. This is really the easy bit, and this can be done in a few minutes. In a second, I'm going to show you what it looks like on the website. Um, and they can normally do this without much help. But if they do have any questions about specifically these areas, they can get in touch and ask us what they need to fill in. They have, however, all been given a step-by-step guide, which is a PowerPoint that goes through each section with screenshots and it lays it all out really, really clearly what they need to do in each section for UCAS. And that's available through each student's tutor team. And I can also email this on to you if you would like a copy of it. I will just show you, though, what UCAS actually looks like. Sorry, get my meeting controls back, stop my share. Because it is a little bit busy when you log into the UCAS site. This is if you're a student and you log in, this is what it looks like. There's a lot going on. But the only bit they really need to click on as a student is this part here that says your applications. And then it's very clearly set out what they need to fill in. So they start in this section with the My Profile section. This is obviously a dummy account that I've been using to demonstrate you, so you can see it's got some bits finished and some bits aren't. These parts, as I said, are all really straightforward. They will then fill in their choices, up to 5 that they can select with this extremely large button up here. And they will also add their personal statement once they've written it at the bottom. Students haven't written their personal statements yet. They will be starting to plan and work on them over the next few weeks and starting drafting really over and planning over summer. But this is what the UCAS website looks like. So after they've done the admin bit, so name, contact details, all those kind of things, they need to fill in the qualifications section, the education section. And this is where they enter any GCSEs or BTECs that they've already achieved. Um, if your child has done a qualification more than once, so that if they've resat a GCSE, for example, they enter their most recent and the best grade they've got. And they will also need to enter the details of any qualifications that they are currently working towards. So any A levels, B Techs, C Techs, etc., that they're currently doing. Tutors enter the predicted grades, though, not the students. Um, they do have, as I say, a guide as to how to do all of this. But if they do get stuck, they can ask their tutor or they can get in touch with me. One of the most important things that you can help students with then, your children with, is actually the choosing the courses section. That's the bit where they really do need either some guidance or sometimes just a sounding board to talk things through. It is really important that they choose the right courses, because once that application's been sent, it is difficult and sometimes impossible to actually change them. So they should be certain when that application is sent off that they are happy with the courses that they have chosen. We will give them some guidance on this, but they should really be looking very, very closely at the type of university that they want to go to. Do they want to live on a campus? Do they want to live in a city? Do they want to live, outside, somewhere more rural or suburban? Do they want to stay somewhere like in London or like London? They should think about the location, especially in terms of the distance from home and how long it might take and how much it might cost to get from wherever they are studying back to home. One thing they can look at is the league table rankings, although they do use different criteria. So if you look across the three main league tables, they do have things in a slightly different order. And they should also check the subject rankings too, as well as just the overall university ranking. Um, as I say, these can be a little bit subjective. A lot of them are based on things like student feedback, which you can discuss how sort of important you think that is. But some students like to have a look and see where the university that they are applying to sort of ranks in the UK. Absolutely important. In fact, the most important of all is that they look at the course itself, both the modules that they will do and the type of assessment that that course will use. Some courses, of course, are very weighted towards exams, and and students will have lots of exams and have them quite frequently. Some courses are much more weighted towards continual assessment, and that varies uni by uni. Um, they also need to look at modules, because obviously if they're choosing a subject such as history, huge broad subject, you do get some universities that aim towards a broader curriculum, but you get some that let you specialize right from your first year. So they really do need to look and see if the course that they are looking at fits their interests and fits their skills. Finally, it can be worth looking at graduate destinations as well. So, of the people who graduate from that university or from that course, what do they then go and do? How many go into further education? How many go into employment? So on and so forth. The best place to look to help narrow course ideas down is Unifrog, a website called Unifrog. All students have a login, have access to this via their tutor. If they don't, for whatever reason, they should let their tutor know. And this is a really good website because it allows students to put in the course they're interested in, the grades that they're likely to get, and it allows them to filter those courses down, but also then filter it by all of these different things. So they could look at, for example, mechanical engineering courses no more than 10 miles away from home, within the top 10 rankings, uh, you where the grades are 3As. They can really, really narrow it down, and it can help them because obviously there are hundreds of universities, thousands of courses. It can be really difficult to find what you need. Of course, the best way is to visit the university, which I am aware how silly that sounds at the minute. And of course, at the moment, campuses are still closed. We have been trying to work with campuses to organise some trips, but it's just not been possible. But all universities do offer virtual tours, virtual open days, virtual workshops and tasters. And as much as it's not exactly the same as being there in person, it can give you a sense of what that university is like. So I would really, really recommend them. And hopefully, fingers crossed, when things do start to open up again, students will be able to go and actually see the campuses themselves. Once they've narrowed it down, then they've narrowed down their choices. They really need to look at the entry requirements and be really, really honest about, what grades are they going to get? Where, as I've said, where do they want to live? This course, there might be an amazing course in the in at Edinburgh University, University of Edinburgh or Glasgow, but do they really want to be that far away from home? Some of them might. They might absolutely love it, but like, yeah, great, take me on a 6-hour train ride. Can't wait. But others will be understandably quite apprehensive about that. Um, Please ask them these questions. Have they read the course content? Do they know what they're going to be studying? Do they know whether they're going to be doing exams or coursework? Does the course link to what they want to do in the future? Or if they're not sure what they want to do yet, does it help them to keep their options open? And finally, and very, very importantly, do they actually enjoy doing this? Do they want to spend another 3 years studying this subject? Because it is a big commitment. Once they've answered those questions, they are ready to make their choices. And we recommend, out of the 5 choices they make, that they make 2 aspirational choices. So at the top of their predicted grades, 2 safe ones, safely in their predicted grades, and 1 backup, which is slightly below their predicted grades. Because then they are likely to get 5 offers. And as they work through year 13, they don't have to actually accept their offers until May of year 13. So by that point, they'll have a really good idea of what they're actually going to get in August. And they should have then a good choice out of those 5 as to which ones they want to accept as their firm and insurance offer. They can choose more than one course at the same university if they really love it. So if they're like, yeah, I definitely want to go to the University of Leeds, it's amazing, I love it, they could apply for, say, history and politics at that university. They shouldn't choose 5 courses, of course, that all need 3 A stars, but equally, they shouldn't choose 5 that all need 3 Ds. It should be a mix of aspirational, safe, and backup across their grades. And in some cases, for some courses, the entry criteria is actually listed as points rather than grades. And this is actually really helpful if you're doing a BTEC rather than A levels, because sometimes it will give, again, BTEC grades. So it will say distinction star, distinction star, distinction, but sometimes it will give a UCAS point total. So it will say, instead of saying 3 Bs, it will say you need 120 points. If you see that, then you can go to, if you just put UCAS tariff calculator into Google, or you can click on these slides later, and you can put in the grades, and it will give you the points equivalent, so you can work it out. The final thing the students do then, or at the same, because they need to have decided on their courses really before they write their personal statement, because the statement is tailored to their courses. So the last thing they will do is their personal statement, and this is the students' opportunity to prove to their universities that they are the best students for that course. Now, it is an academic document. The majority of the statement should cover things to do with skills and academia. So, evidence of those skills, evidence of extra reading or work they've done out of school that supports this. And the statement should also prove literacy and communication skills. This doesn't mean they can't talk about extracurricular stuff or work experience, but it must be relevant and they must explain how they've improved their skills in those areas rather than just saying what they did. Um, a very quick list then of do's and don'ts for personal statements. That it should again focus on academics. It should, where possible, use as much supercurricular as possible, especially if they're applying for a competitive course. And it should, of course, be proofread and accurate. It shouldn't. You obviously. Students shouldn't lie in their personal statements. UCAS do have plagiarism checkers, which I've seen in action. Um, they shouldn't list irrelevant things, especially sort of things like I've said attendance awards from primary school that aren't going to matter to the university. They should avoid. Sort of cliches or pretentious quotations or trying to write in an overly kind of verbose or florid way. It should still sound like them, but in a academic, professional way. They are aiming for clarity. Admissions tutors read hundreds of these. They are aiming to communicate clearly. Once this is done, we so the students have no part in this. We will add the reference to the each UCAS application. This is a personalised reference for each student that's written by the teachers, and it also includes some general information about the school. And then predicted grades are added. And these predicted grades are decided on based on a holistic view of the student across year 12 and the beginning of year 13. So the work across year 12, HSE grades or module grades for BTECs and CTECs, and potential to improve. So predicted grades are always positive. We set them to give students the best possible chance, but we will not fabricate them. So we will not make them up. And we as a team, as a sixth form team, won't change predicted grades that are set by subject teachers because they are the experts and they know your children the best and they know their potential. So that is where the predicted grades always come from. The universities themselves then choose their students in a few ways. So they mainly work on predicted grades and personal statements, but a few universities and a few courses, so Oxford, Cambridge, and as I've said, medicine, dentistry, and so on, they have sometimes their own assessments, and they very, very occasionally do interviews. Interviews aren't really very common unless you're applying for one of those courses, or if you're applying for something like performing arts, they might run an audition. Um, Oxbridge do run their own entrance exams. And if you are applying for medicine, veterinary, dentistry, as I said, you will need to sit an exam called a UCAT or a BMAT. And students who are applying for those things will need to check up on those and check the dates and also check the costs. But again, if your child is applying for any of those more unusual courses, please do let me know because we will support them. As I've said, very few university courses actually interview now. And if your child is interviewed, then we offer personalised prep to any students who have academic interviews. And if your child is looking at something like performing arts or they're doing a portfolio interview for arts, they will be supported by their teachers in that case. So, in terms of offers, students can get their offers at any point from when they submit their application. So, they don't have to wait until the 26th of January. If you submit your application in November and the university like it, they can respond to you straight away. So, there are bonuses to getting your application in early. Most offers then, so the deadline, we've got this deadline of 26th of January. The unis will make their offers in February and March, and then students will need to respond and accept to those by May, usually the beginning of May. And they can be made either a conditional or an unconditional offer. Nearly all offers are conditional, and this is essentially if you get 3 Bs or if you get 120 points, you have a place on this course. Occasionally, a student will get an unconditional offer, which means they have a place regardless of their grade outcome, but most offers are conditional. And once all those offers are in, the students choose a firm and an insurance choice. So the firm choice is this is my favorite, this is definitely where I want to go, and the insurance is a backup. That insurance should have a lower grade or point offer because what will happen on results day is if the student doesn't get the grades to go to their firm choice, then they will usually be accepted by their insurance choice. They cannot swap between the two, though. They're not interchangeable. So they do need to be certain. And we really recommend that unconditional offers are treated with caution and are only accepted if the student really wants to go there anyway, regardless of it being an unconditional offer, because we don't want students to sort of not be ambitious and take an unconditional offer because it feels safe. We want them to always push for the best offer, the best place that they can get, and the place they really want to go to. If a student gets no offers then, so they make 5 offers, so 5 applications, if they don't get any offers from the uni, or as sometimes happens, if they change their mind about what they want to do and decline them all, so they apply for 5 psychology courses, then they change their mind and decide they want to do sociology, then they can use the UCAS extra service to make another choice for free. They should always tell us if they're planning to do anything like this, and we will guide them through it. If they accept their offers, as I've said, but when they get their grades, they don't meet the conditions. If they don't meet the conditions for their firm choice, they'll be passed to their insurance. If they don't meet the conditions for their insurance either, they'll be eligible for clearing. Clearing is a list of all the courses that are available that are not full, and then they can search through clearing and find a course that they want to apply to, or they can wait until next year and apply again if they want to, or do something else. And finally, this doesn't come up very often at all across schools or colleges generally. But if a student does absolutely loads better than they expected, then they can be eligible for something called adjustments. A lot of the time, even if students are eligible for adjustment, they want to stick with their choice anyway, because that's the place they wanted to go. But occasionally, they can swap out their course for something else. I'm not going to talk very much at all about fees or loans today because I'll talk about this later in year 13. But please, my advice at the minute is just don't be too worried about fees or loans because the number looks absolutely massive when you look at it. But it's recovered through PAYE most of the time after you graduate, and the amount that students pay back per month is very, very small. Um, Student finance opens round about March each year, and the initial deadline is the end of May. But we will give them lots of help and support, and we will give you some more help and support if you need it around paying for university later in year 13. Uh, Lots of ways you can help then around you help your child to be realistic, ambitious but realistic about the course, about how far they're willing to travel, about what they want to do. Please encourage them, and as we say, encourage them to be ambitious and look far afield. Visit unis and attend open days online if you have to, or in person if possible. Help them with their personal statement. If you're not sure how to help with the personal statement, which is completely understandable if it's a subject or whatever that you're unfamiliar with, please encourage them to talk to a teacher about it. Talk to them about courses and careers and know the deadlines and remind them of when the deadlines are. And of course, encourage them to stick to those deadlines. The UCAS deadlines are just non negotiable. And so if they miss them, it is a hard deadline that they will miss. There is a list of useful websites here, but again, if you want to have a look through the slides afterwards, you can see a mixture of UCAS and Unifrog there, um, some other UCAS guides, the league table rankings for last year, the student finance login, and finally the last article. It's a Martin Lewis one, a money saving expert one. It's incredibly detailed, but he really does go through student loans in a lot of detail, and it's a very good myth busting article. It makes it's quite reassuring. However, what if they don't want to go to university? Because they absolutely don't have to. And you know, at Burley, most of our sixth formers do. We have really high progression to university. Lots of our students do go, but they absolutely do not have to. And I know you know, young people at the minute are in you one of the most chaotic times, absolute upheaval, and university is a kind of safe and steady thing. And we have seen applications to university go up in the last couple of years, partly driven by that. But there are other options as well. It's not just university. So if you have a child who is not particularly enjoying your academic parts of sixth form and is sort of thinking now this is not for me, I don't want to do another 3 years at this, then we will support them with their alternative choices too. One thing to look at is uh, not university, but other forms of FE or other forms of training or education. We have lots of students who go in our art department who go on to do an art foundation course before they go to university. We have a very experienced art department who are really, really skilled in these applications, and it is excellent prep for uni if they want to go, but it doesn't. They don't have to after that year. And a standalone foundation year is often free fees wise for students under 19, so it doesn't necessarily have to be another expense. Again, if you want some more information about that, please do get in touch. Occasionally as well, we have students who go on and kind of do a sideways step and do another level 3 course, for example, in something that is more specific to what they want to do or to increase their UCAS point. So, for example, this is a few years ago now, but we had a student who had done BTEC with us who actually, instead of going straight onto uni, she went to Capel Manor to do a diploma in sort of veterinary science, and then she went on to do a degree in veterinary nursing. So you don't always have to go right up the escalator step by step. Sometimes it can be useful to go in slightly different ways, and we can give advice on that too. An absolutely brilliant route, which is completely undersold, I will admit, and we are really working on promoting this a lot more to our students, are going into apprenticeships instead of going to university or as a next step after A levels or BTECs. Um, if you're not familiar, apprenticeships are a full-time combination of work and study. And they come in three brackets. There's an introductory bracket, which will be too low for your children because they're past that level now. That is for students who are sort of GCSE level or below. But the ones that your students will be looking at are higher and advanced apprenticeships, which are level 3 and 4, so A level or B level, A level or BTEC equivalent or just above, or degree level apprenticeships. Now, degree level apprenticeships are particularly good because they include study towards an undergraduate degree, the same as any other university degree, but you do it alongside work instead of doing it as a full time student. And apprenticeships are available in such a massive range of sectors now. They're still available in more traditional sectors like construction or plumbing or hair and beauty, but they are increasingly common and very, very popular in law, accountancy, as I've said here, things like business management and project management, research and development. If you can think of the sector, you can probably do an apprenticeship in it. And it's a great option for students who are ready to leave academia or just want to earn some money. Um, but you are studying still alongside it. So it's not just going into a job, you are getting some kind of qualification, either a professional qualification or an academic qualification alongside your work. The opportunities are just improving all the time for apprenticeships. Um, just to show you, one of the differences is a degree level apprenticeship, of course, because it includes a full undergraduate degree, will normally take 5 years. So it is quite a big commitment, although your degree is a 3-year commitment. A level 3 and 4 apprenticeship will usually be between 12 and 18 months, depending on the sector and depending on what the apprenticeship is in. But they are paid, and they are often paid quite well. Um, Again, I think people have this idea of apprentices being paid sort of £2 or £3 an hour, and it really isn't the case anymore. Um, Level 3, level 4 apprenticeships are usually advertised starting at about £16,000 a year, which is if you're 18 and you're living at home is certainly not bad. Degree level apprenticeships can be extremely well paid indeed, and you can find that you leave at the end of the 5 years with not only no debt because you don't pay any tuition fees, and a job, but also with quite a lot of money saved. Um, so your degree level apprenticeship, you earn a wage, you don't need to get a loan. At the end of that, you will likely be offered a job by the people you've been working for 5 years. But if not, you can take your degree and your experience and go off somewhere else. Um, After you've done your 12, 18-month apprenticeship, you can either go into a degree level apprenticeship if you want to, or you can go into full-time work, or you can go off and do something else. But again, you've got that experience and that qualification banked. And lots of sectors are actively promoting apprenticeship learning. So particularly things like I've mentioned accountancy and law are really, really keen to employ more apprentices rather than taking graduates because they have more time to train them. And by the time you're a graduate, apprentices have 3 or 4 years of work experience on you. So it can be a really, really good option for a lot of students. One thing to bear in mind is that some apprenticeships are very competitive. Degree level apprenticeships are all competitive because they offer such good benefits. But other apprenticeships at very well known firms, so Google apprenticeships, for example, it will not surprise you to find out, are extraordinarily competitive, and places on those can be harder to get than a place at Oxbridge, for example. But most apprenticeships aren't that competitive. Um, they all need students to do quite a bit of work to apply for them. There's no UCAS for apprenticeships where you can just make one application and it's sent off to lots of different places. You have to make a completely separate application to each apprenticeship. They are collated though by the government. So there is a government website where you can type in, I want an apprenticeship in engineering within 5 miles of NW5, and I want a advanced apprenticeship, and it will give you a list of all of them. So you can filter it. And students can also set up alerts so they know when new apprenticeships come out. And I also run an apprenticeships team that I post opportunities in every week, so students can opt into that. Because each opportunity is offered by the employer, it has a unique application process. It's like it's applying for a job essentially. You have to think of it in the same way as applying for a job, not like applying for university. And therefore, they can involve a range of sort of application tasks, starting with an application form and a CV, personal statements, and then going into things like phone interviews, Skype interviews, group interviews, task days, and so on. And students have to be prepared to spend time doing them. But again, we will support them. If we know they're applying for apprenticeships, we will help them, we will support them. And it is worth it for the best opportunities. So being active and seeking them out, and also being a little bit resilient, because usually they will have to apply for a few before they get one. They will, it's really likely, especially with the competitive ones, that they won't get the first thing they apply for, but they will keep. They will get better at the applications, like you do with job interviews, as you go. Time frame wise, they don't run on the academic year. So they are advertised when companies want to advertise them, but they do. But businesses are aware of when the academic year is, of course. But they can start to be advertised from October all the way through round into the summer. The best time to look is I'll start looking properly is sort of March of year 13. That is when lots of them start to come out. Apprenticeship week is the beginning of March, and you see a kind of boost in apprenticeship adverts then. Um, they are a great alternative to uni for some students, but they are hard work. And one thing I would ask a student, always ask a student, is are they ready for an apprenticeship? Are they work ready? Are they ready to get up at 7 o'clock every day and iron their shirt and get on the tube and and stay at work until 5:30 or later if they need to? They are then they will be on a different routine to their peers who are at university, for example, and have very different schedules. The reward to that, though, is they will have all this experience and they will be earning lots of money ahead of their peers. One thing to remember is you live and they live in the best place in the country to take advantage of apprenticeships. If you live, up in North Yorkshire or, over in Wales, your young people struggle to find apprenticeship opportunities because there aren't as many employers. London is full of apprenticeships. It's absolutely bursting with them. If you put a search on the government website within 10 miles, 5 miles, as I said, of NW5, that you will find lots and lots of them come up. So really do take advantage of that, of where you live. I would recommend as well that students do get a bit of work experience, or at least do some research around the sectors that they're applying for, because an apprenticeship is much more focused than a degree or than A levels or than a BTEC. So they have to be sure that they're going into the right sector and that they know what they're applying for and they know what they're going to be doing for 12 months, 18 months, or possibly 5 years. Another option, which isn't quite so appealing at the minute due to travel restrictions and so on, but but hopefully, fingers crossed, will be by next year, is taking a gap year or deferring. So if a student wants to go to university, but they know they don't want to go right now. They know they don't want to go in 2022. They can apply now and they can defer. Now, we recommend that they do still apply now because they will get our support. But when they fill in their UCAS form, they put 2023 instead of 2022. The rest of the process is identical. If during their gap year they change their mind and they decide they don't want to take up that offer, they don't have to. It's not a contract. Um, but not all courses, you can't defer for all courses. So that is worth checking. Some courses will let a student apply for 2022 and then ring them up and request a deferral and defer them to 2023, but they don't have to. They usually say yes, but they don't have to. So that is just worth bearing in mind. The university does not have to grant you a deferral. If you have a child who's thinking about deferring, please do get in touch and I can give you some more sort of advice around that process. Of course, the final option then is work. Some students are keen to get into work. I would very, very heavily promote and recommend an apprenticeship over work because of the integrated training and because of the prospects that are built into an apprenticeship. But if your child is really determined to go out and work, then please do encourage them again to get in touch with us and ask us, and we can make sure that they have an appropriate CV. They know how to write an appropriate cover letter. They know how to respond to job adverts, and we can support them with that process as well. A few useful websites at the end, again, mainly around apprenticeships here. The UCAS page on apprenticeships. Rate My Apprenticeship is really good because not only does it do apprenticeship searches, it gives actual feedback. And Camden itself, if students wanted to stay very local, has its own apprenticeships team that you can find here. For more information then, or to ask any more specific questions, please feel free to get in touch with me. My email is on the screen. Tracy is our work experience coordinator. So if your child is wanting to do a particular type of work experience and they're not really sure where to start or where to go, Tracy is a fantastic person to speak to. She's got lots and lots of connections. And we also work very closely with Glenn Thompson. Glenn supports a lot of applications to colleges or alternative education. Glenn supports a lot of students with EHCPs or students who have additional learning needs, and we all work together to support our sixth formers. So that is me done for a second. I will just check in the chat in a second to see if there are any questions. Please do take a minute to just have a think. I know I've done a lot of talking, and if you do have any questions, just pop them in the chat, please.
Laura.
Yes, Ron.
Just before you deal with the questions, there are a number of things I'd like to say,
Of course.
if I may. So, hello everyone. Good evening. Thanks for coming this afternoon, and I hope you found it useful. I certainly, I'm amazed by the amount of information and knowledge that Laura shows every single year when she does this for us. We wrote a letter which was sent to you by email, I believe, a couple of weeks ago, laying out the end of this term. So, of course, for many students, this week has been iStakes exams week, and next week students won't have lessons as such all next week, and that will be taken up with a combination of Futures Day on Monday, which most students will be attending. We have told students about the details, but I'll be reminding them over the next couple of days about the details of that. So it starts with Futures Day on Monday, and then Tuesday to Friday will be a combination of exams for some students, art students, trips, enrichment activities, and some students, I don't know how many, have actually managed to find themselves work experience. Now, to tie all of that into this, Futures Day is sort of introducing students to progression, various courses that they might want to do at university or other courses elsewhere, apprenticeships. And then certainly on period 2, of Tuesday to Friday, the majority of students will be will be continuing with their UCAS application. So we've put that bit by for them. Now, what we will give them next week, I've had it in my office for a little while, but it was no good giving them just yet. It's quite a detailed booklet produced by Le Swap with lots of information, which will help support what what Laura said today. But above all, what I'd like you to know about is the slides that Laura has produced for students. They can be found on their Teams classrooms. The tutors have already put them on the Teams classrooms. It's on the back wall of the sixth form common room. All the students have to do is follow Laura's slides, and it's very, very straightforward. I'm not particularly good with computers, as most people know who know me, and I can do it. I did it with no bother whatsoever. So students need to access those slides that Laura's produced. They're fantastic. The other thing I'd like you to know about, over the last few years, Miss Remington and I, we've managed to, get ourselves a really, really strong tutor team that are very, very good at doing UCAS. They're really good. So they, as Miss Stanley, as Laura said earlier, they are a resource that the students need to use. But finally, and Laura will, there's no way she will say this about herself. She is really an expert on this stuff, and your child and yourself should use her as much as possible as a resource. She works 4 days a week. Her email is always available, and students will be able to contact Laura, and if they need to speak to her on Teams or by phone, she'll be more than willing to do that. So please bear that in mind. She really is a font of knowledge with regards to all this sort of stuff. And before I leave, then thanks again for coming. But Laura, thank you once again for doing this for us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, back
Thanks
to
for
you, Laura.
Thanks very much. So I think I've managed to answer all the questions that were in the chat just by responding to people. Just as a reminder, if you have any further questions, as Ron's just said, my email is open, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. With regards to these slides, these will be on the Ackland Burley website, and this recording will be available via our YouTube channel. That will be, the link to that will be in the family bulletin as hopefully this week, as soon as I've processed it and got it up, but certainly next week. And if you'd like it, the link emailing to you, just get in touch. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was really informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.